You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
And right now on the Inside Slant, very excited to be joined by the play-by-play voice of the Navy midshipman, Pete Medhurst, as we preview the Navy Notre Dame game in Dublin. Pete, welcome back in.
Always good to be with you guys, and happy football New Year.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's week 0. Finally have some college football. 7 games taking place this weekend. Obviously, Navy making that 7 or so hour flight across the pond, taking on Notre Dame, I believe, for the 96th time in program history. Last year, close call in Baltimore, that furious comeback, 35-32, Notre Dame was the final. And this year, the Fighting Irish, obviously very high expectations, maybe even a dark horse in some folks' opinion to maybe contend for a playoff spot. And they're bringing in Sam Hartman, so year 2 of Marcus Freeman. But, speaking of head coaches, and Brian Newberry taking over for Ken Niumatalolo, how's that transition going, and what can you tell us as we head into game 1 of the Newberry era?
Well, I mean, what a great opponent to make your debut against. I mean, if you win the game, you're the toast of the college football world coming up on Saturday. So, look, I mean, I've got it's just like I told y'all about Mike when he took over down there. I mean, I know Brian's going to do a good job here. Ultimately, what's going to make us sink or swim is the business of college football. Right now the business of college football is trying to desperately to go to a model that might as well be called professional. And, there's still standards at the service academies. There's academic standards at Notre Dame, places like Wake Forest, where, they don't necessarily, reduce those academic standards. And every one of those teams has found a way to still somehow manage to play a good level of college football. And I would expect that level to stay there under Brian Newberry and his staff. I trust these men implicitly. I like what they've done with the staff. And the players have had nothing but glowing things to say about what has happened with Coach. Because just like when Ken Niumatalolo filled the shoes of Paul Johnson, Brian Newberry now knows, you're filling the shoes of the man that won more games than anybody else at the Naval Academy. And the expectation by this coaching staff is to still win every game. And that's what they're going to Dublin to do on Saturday. And that's to try and knock off one of the nation's nationally ranked powers.
Pete, Coach Ken, he was there for such a long time. He had such a great record of success with Navy. Obviously, Brian Newberry steps into the head coaching role. He has been on staff for a while. Tremendous defensive coordinator. What are some of the differences you've observed, this offseason between the two styles, Coach Ken and Coach Newberry?
I'll be honest with you. I don't believe in terms of their styles, there's a lot of difference. There's an incredible accountability. There's a feeling of family. Those were 2 staples under Ken Niumatalolo. If anything, I mean, philosophically, there's some new concepts that are being introduced to complement triple option concepts. But other than that, there's a reason why Ken Niumatalolo hired Brian Newberry. Loved his football acumen. Obviously, he's a great man of character. And those are 2 things that you have to be a successful coach at the United States Naval Academy. And I think Brian's time here, he has shown, certainly on his side of the football, that his acumen for the game is top notch. I mean, there's a reason why Power 5 schools were, trying to acquire him to be their defensive coordinator. Some of them, with multiple commas in their offers. And, he loves Annapolis. And he wants to stay here. He sees himself as someone that could stay here for an awful long time, just like Coach Niumatalolo did, just like Coach Welsh did back in the 70s before he went to Virginia. So I think that's ultimately, if you're a Navy fan, that's what you like to hear, a guy that is bought into your job, that he's not, a guy that's looking to use Navy as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. Brian's already had that opportunity, and he's chosen to stay at the Naval Academy.
While their style overall is very similar, one thing that is going to be different, as Coach Newberry mentioned on our show back a few months ago, early in the summer, is the approach to the offense. Yes, they're still going to run the option, but there are going to be some different variations there. And he's bringing in Grant Chestnut from Kennesaw State to do so. Tell us about how that transition's gone. And then I know off the air we were discussing the quarterback battle. So where does that stand?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna see both guys that have gotten the bulk of work in camp so far, Ty Lovatai and Blake Horvath. You're gonna see both of those guys on Saturday. I'm convinced of that. Watching them both in practice, they have adjusted to the additional concepts. As I've told people, the fullback dive's not going anywhere. We got two really good fullbacks in Daba Fofana, Alex Teksha. They're going to be terrific. You're going to utilize those guys because they're two very good football players. We've still got really fast slot backs. We're going to utilize those guys. Kind of stinks to lose Mikael Hayward to Appalachian State, but he's a great football player, and good luck to him down with App State. But we've got plenty of kids that are, ready for the opportunity to play at slot, and we've got a quarterback room that's pretty deep. It really is. I mean, they've done a great job in recruiting. We're lucky to have a couple of veterans in Ty Lovatai and Xavier Arline who have played, who can go in there, and they're not going to be wowed by the moment. The other quarterbacks, the only strike against them is they don't have any game experience. They're very talented though, and that's what you're looking for. Is ultimately, talent wins games, and if you don't have it, you don't win. They've done very good at this position. Ivan Jasper's done a great job in getting them ready to play. I'll be excited to see what they do coming up on Saturday.
Pete, you look back at that Notre Dame game from last year, and what a game it was. Navy actually outgunned them in terms of total yards, and also held Notre Dame to just 66 yards rushing, which, again, going back to Newberry, that's pretty damn impressive, Pete. I would suspect that Notre Dame's going to try to run the football in this game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, you got a great offensive tackle and alt out there. I mean, that's a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Estime is a terrific talent at running back. And let's face it, you have to acknowledge Sam Hartman. I know A.T. Perry's not out there in South Bend with him, but you have to acknowledge Sam Hartman. Your secondary's got to stay disciplined and back, where they're supposed to be. So you would figure Alt and Estime are really going to be, an emphasis on what Notre Dame is going to do. I mean, Marcus coached with Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. Luke is a huge believer in the run game, being physical. And look, let's face it. I mean, as good as those teams were at Cincinnati, the offensive line talent at Notre Dame's even better. So he's going to look to take advantage of that, I'm sure. And look, let's face it. If you can run the football effectively, that's just going to make life even easier for Sam Hartman during the course of this season. The question ultimately is who at Notre Dame turns into his A.T. Perry. Can Navy get pressure on him like they did in the second half, where John Marshall just abused Notre Dame in the second half last year? That's ultimately going to be the challenge for Navy, is getting pressure on Sam Hartman when he goes back to pass in this game, because as we've all seen, with plenty of time to throw, Sam Hartman is a marksman out there, and he is one of college football's best at that position.
Tell us about some of the guys on the defense and make this defense have such high expectations, and who are some of the leaders at each level?
Well, we're deep up front. We might have the best defensive line in the American, with Donald Berniard, Jacob Usick, and Clay Cromwell. Cromwell and Berniard were so good, both playing the nose, that they moved Cromwell over so they could both be on the field at the same time. Josh Reed has really stepped up at position over with Busick. So we're deep there, and we're good there. Linebackers, our two middle linebackers are terrific players, Will Harbor and Colin Ramos. Those guys are, again, I believe, in terms of middle backers, they potentially are as good as anybody in the American. It's where, what do we do at the striker position, which is kind of like our playmaking position on defense, where John Marshall vacates, with Xavier McDonald and Jackson Sanders. Those are two guys that are going at that position. They've got a chance to play, and we'll see. I mean, if they even give Navy half the production that John Marshall did, the mids are going to be okay. You've got a secondary that's got experience. Rayon Lane is one of the best, DBs in the American, and looking forward to another big season from him. Ultimately, with us, can our secondary stay healthy? It got beat up a little bit last year, and the good news is some of those guys that are playing got to play because the secondary got beat up. And one of the guys that was really good for a short period of time last year before he got hurt was Deshaun Peel. He's back and ready to go at a corner spot. So, I mean, you got a lot of guys on the defensive side that have played, and that's one of the reasons why Brian Newberry and defensive coordinator PJ Volker are so excited about what potentially this defense can be this coming season.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating matchup for me. When you look at Sam Hartman versus Newberry, Hartman is a legitimate Heisman candidate, tremendous player. He can beat you in so many ways, Pete. He can beat you with his feet. He can beat you with his arm. So I'm really looking forward to see how Newberry chooses to defend him. I still have nightmares about how Newberry defended us last season. Unfortunately, I won't say a word about that. But he's excellent at, Newberry's tremendous at game planning and then implementing that game plan and trying to shut people down.
What he does, and he's not married to a specific formation or philosophy. It's not, we're going to show up, and we're always going to line up this way because our people are better than yours. We're not Clemson. We're not Georgia. We just can't line up with our 11 guys in the same formation every week and go get you that way. But yeah, I mean, what he does from a game planning standpoint, and look, just like Brian was at Navy as a defensive coordinator, I think PJ Volker is a rising star in this profession. I kid him all the time right now, and I'm not really kidding, but I told him, I said, if you ever get a head coaching job, I'm coming to work in your recruiting department. Because I would work for either one of those guys every day of the week. They're two of the most dynamic football coaches I've ever met in my life. You have one-on-one conversations with these guys where you're not interviewing them, but you're just talking football. You learn, but you get the game from a different perspective. You get it from how they see it, because the best coaches see the game in a way that not everybody else does. They game plan for it in a way that not everybody else does. That's what separates, in my mind, the really good football coaches from the guy that's, happy to go 6-6, make a couple of bowl games. He goes to all the luncheons and everything, and everybody shakes your hand. Hey, coach, are we going to Bermuda for that bowl game this year? Are we going to, Tennessee for this bowl game? Or are we going to the Gator Bowl? Whatever. These are guys that see the game in a different way that make them difference makers. And that's why I'm so high on this staff that they've been able to put together. I think when you talk offensive football with Grant Chestnut, you see a guy that, he thinks about the game in a beyond the basic level. I mean, you know this, Matt. I mean, if you just try to attack basically in football now, you can't win. You're not going to beat good teams just being basic in football. It's what can you do specific to stopping that team every week that gives your team a chance to win. And that's where I think these men make a difference. It's just like when Mike took over down there. Mike thinks about this game in a little bit of a different way. I mean, go back and watch his teams at James Madison and how they performed against Power 5 teams. You got Virginia Tech people out here that, making fun of James Madison and everything. I want to ask the Virginia Tech people, what the hell have you won lately? So, I look at what Mike has done at James Madison and now at East Carolina and what they've been able to do at James Madison after Mike left because of what he built. And, that's why coaches like that are always going to be in demand, because they can come into any situation to make a difference. And that's why I think Brian Newberry and his staff are going to do just fine here at Navy.
Appreciate your time this afternoon, Pete. A couple more questions for you. First games, season openers can be very intriguing. Things that, typically may not be the case do play a role. And special teams are certainly always important, but they're magnified even more in a season opening game. I think back last year, East Carolina, had it not been for special teams, would have beaten number 13 NC State.
Yes.
But what can you tell us about the special teams matchup in this game?
Hey, you know that. I mean, and look, Owen Daffer can kick the football a mile. Okay, we saw that in the game in Annapolis 2 years ago when that ball would have been good from 70 that he hit to beat us at the buzzer. Okay, think about that. There were two opportunities. I mean, if they should have beaten us, they should have beaten us. If he makes kicks, they beat us. They beat NC State. Season looks completely different. And you know what? My guy Keaton Mitchell, who's turning up at Ravens camp right now, probably is a draft pick if they're an even more high-profile team than last year. That's how I feel about the way their season went down there. Their season should have produced even fruitier results for them. Should have been much more fruitful than what they got out of that. But you're right. Special teams make such a huge difference. We have the best punter in the conference. Riley Reithman, no doubt about it. The guy kicks missiles. He's going to be fine. I think our kicking game is going to be fine. We're experienced in both places. That helps us. And ironically enough, if it ever got down to it, if football ever wanted to get creative and have like a long driving contest or a putting contest, our punter Riley Reithman's a scratch golfer too. So we could beat you in a creative tiebreaker way if you wanted to do that. But I believe we're going to be fine on special teams. The question ultimately, is can you snap the ball? Is your field goal PA2 unit? We've had so many good long snappers at the Naval Academy for the last 15 years. You almost take it for granted that the operation has been so good. But again, very high on our special teams because of the experience that we have with Riley Reithman and Evan Warren at those positions.
So, Pete, you're obviously making another trip back to Dublin. I'm very jealous right now. I'm not going to lie. It's a bucket list trip for me. Pete, what do you have planned? Put football aside for a minute. What do you have planned? I know, we talked a little bit about, eating a lot of shepherd's pie, maybe a few pubs. What's on the docket for you?
That's a great question. When we go on the road, I like to kind of keep it basic, especially going to a foreign country, man. I like to kind of stay close to the vest as an American citizen abroad right now. But Dublin's an unbelievable place. It's like Annapolis on steroids, and you have the people over there just could not be nicer. Just a pleasant part of the country in 2012 when we went over there. And, I'm looking forward to more of the same this time. I mean, the Naval Academy, obviously you all had a job opening. And I got to be honest with you. I knew the deadline was June 1st and 11:50 on May 31st. I'm sitting there. I was still thinking about it. Because I know Jeff was an institution down there, and I love the area down there. I think your fan base is one of the most loyal and spectacular in all of college sports. But the Naval Academy has afforded me incredible opportunities. It's been this is starting my 26th year as part of the broadcast team in some capacity. And, they've been incredibly loyal to me. And, because of the great opportunities that we have, we're going to broadcast the game over there. Notre Dame's not even sending its radio team. So, that kind of tells you how Navy continues to do things in a first-class way, no matter what the business of college football continues to throw at us. And, I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to representing the Naval Academy. And, if we get out, about with a lot of guys on our broadcast team, and, we usually go out to dinner at least one night in a place that's local to that area. We stay away from chain restaurants. And I'm sure we'll do that and have some fellowship, and then obviously get ready for what's one of college football's best rivalries that has withstood the test of time, and had COVID not interrupted it, would still be one of the longest running inter-conference matchups in all of college football. So there's nothing quite like it. You know, I mean, I tell people all the time, if you haven't been to South Bend, you guys know it. East Carolina obviously has come to Annapolis now, so you guys know what that's like, talking to East Carolina fan base. But, you know, look, I mean, if you've never been to South Bend to watch a game, you gotta do it. And, you know, these two teams right now, the fact that they have the marketing power to be able to take a game to Dublin, you know Notre Dame's all about the cash. You know that. So this is a home game for them. They're giving up in South Bend to go play in Dublin. And very few programs in college football have that international marketing capacity to do a game like this. And Navy and Notre Dame, obviously, are two of those lucky programs to be able to do that.
And Pete, this game is a sellout from what I understand, which is very impressive considering it's overseas.
Yeah. I mean, look, think about it. I mean, look at how much the NFL has invested now in Europe. I mean, we got games in Germany. Obviously, they've been playing in England for a while. There is a hunger for international football over there. They play football over there. There's a kid I used to coach in youth league baseball who played D3 football at Waynesburg in Pennsylvania, and he is now playing pro football in England right now. So there is a hunger for this stuff over there, and Aviva Stadium is beautiful. We played one of the very first events in there. It was built for rugby, and it's just an incredible stadium. So you're talking about going over there. It's going to be a first-class environment. You know, the Aer Lingus people have been spectacular, you know, from a sponsorship and detail standpoint. So because these two schools, if you don't deal with them in a first-class manner, these two schools are not afraid to tell you thanks, but no thanks. And these people have had an incredible working relationship with us the first time in 2012, and obviously have extended that amazing courtesy again here for another game between these two great rivals.
Now, Pete, just to rewind to our conversation a few minutes back, I got to bring this one back up. So I know you mentioned the Jeff Charles opening for the play-by-play voice. Pete, I'm going to make it my mission. I know you're very happy at Navy. All right. But we're going to see if we're going to put on our recruiting hats this year and see what we can do to get you down in Greenville. What do you think, Pete?
Well, here's the one good thing you have going for you. Eventually my wife wants to live somewhere south of Maryland. So you have the most important part taken care of. So, you know, I got a daughter that plays softball right now, who's a sophomore in high school. So, you know, I probably have at least 2 more years probably here at minimum, but hey, you never know for the right, you know, for the right price. As my guy, Ted DiBiase always used to say, everybody's got a price.
Hey, happy wife, happy life, my friend. You know, that's
no doubt about it. And, you know, I mean, East Carolina's got a terrific softball program. So it wouldn't be hard to get my daughter interested in that. She's a pitcher and she's got a little bit of power. So she's got that going for it too. So she can hit the ball a little bit. So hopefully she can continue to grow in her game. And maybe one day she can get a little scholarship aid. One of those 12.1, part of those 12.1s that softball as a sport gets out there in Division I softball. More importantly, she got a 4.57 GPA, so they're going to give her a lot of academic aid no matter where she goes.
Beautiful.
Pete, I'll give you a second reason. Eastern North Carolina barbecue.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Come on. Look, I told y'all. Look, wait a minute. Hold on. Stop right there. You don't have to entice me with food because East Carolina and Memphis are 1 and 1A in the American Athletic Conference when it comes to food in the press box. Nobody else is close. It's Memphis and East Carolina. There are no substitutes. You must have press food at both of these places. It's far and away the best meal you'll ever have in your life.
That's great. Bubba, go ahead.
Really appreciate your time this afternoon, Pete, and coming on the show on a moment's notice before you fly out in a couple days. tell folks how they can tune into the game, and then also, how they can follow you on social media.
Yep, very easy on whatever you want to call it, X. What's up, Muskie? X. It's great now. At Pete Medhurst. Instagram is Pete_Medhurst. You can even find me on TikTok at Pete on Sports now. I venture into all kinds of different genres of social media. That's how we have to make our existence now. And obviously, folks on Sunday can go to the Naval Academy website, navysports.com, and click on the listen link to get our radio broadcast. As I said, Notre Dame's radio not going. We are. So we'll be there on Saturday live to describe all the action from Aviva Stadium coming up on Saturday.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pete. As always, we appreciate your time. I hope you have a great trip to Dublin. Good luck to the Naval Academy, and look forward to catching up to you later on in the season.
You got it. See you guys in November.
Take care, my friend.
See ya.